Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
Welcome to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. Hello. How's it going today? I hope you're having a wonderful day or a wonderful week. Hope you're staying positive and healthy throughout all of this chaos still. Let's just jump right into some positive stories. I'm here to share all those feel-good stories with you to brighten your day. So let's just jump right in. The first story I'm going to share with you today is, of course, about COVID-19, but it's pretty exciting. So the FDA, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, approved the emergency use of an antiviral drug called remdesivir. It's as the country's first drug treatment for COVID-19. So the emergency use approval was issued after a government-sponsored study. So there was over 1,000 patients that were hospitalized with COVID-19 that were treated with the drug, recovered an average of 4 days faster than those who were not treated with the drug. So a 31% improvement in recovery time. So this treatment was developed by Gilead Sciences Incorporated. It was approved for expanded use, provided that additional research can be conducted on the efficiency and safety of the drug. So the EUA allows for remdesivir to be distributed in the U.S. and administered by healthcare providers as appropriate, just to treat suspected or laboratory confirmed COVID-19 cases in adults and children that are hospitalized with the disease. So the severe disease is defined as patients with low blood oxygen levels or needing oxygen therapy or more intensive breathing support, such as a mechanical ventilator. So the FDA Commissioner, Stephen M. Hahn, says from day one, the FDA has committed to expediting the development and availability of potential COVID-19 treatments. Today's action is an important step in our efforts to collaborate with innovators and researchers to provide sick patients timely access to new therapies where appropriate, while at the same time supporting research to further evaluate whether they are safe and effective. There's tremendous interest among all parties to identify and arm ourselves with medicines to combat COVID-19. And through our coronavirus treatment acceleration program, the FDA is working around the clock and using every tool at our disposal to speed up these efforts. So they are saying that based on the evaluation of the emergency use criteria and the scientific evidence available, it was determined that it is reasonable to believe that remdesivir may be effective in treating COVID-19, and that given there are no adequate, approved, or available alternative treatments, the known and potential benefits to treat the coronavirus is currently outweighing the known and potential risks of this drug use. So they say the results from the global placebo-controlled trial run by National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease are positive. They show that patients with COVID-19 who received remdesivir recovered faster than similar patients who received placebo. There is still more work to do, and remdesivir has not been approved, but all of us at the Gilead are humbled by what these promising results might mean for patients. After years of research and hard work on remdesivir, there is relief and gratitude among our teams today, and that their efforts have been so worthwhile. Since January, our teams have been working day and night to determine whether remdesivir might work in patients with COVID-19. These efforts include collaboration with study investigators and governments on the various clinical trials. Today's news that remdesivir might play a role in easing the burden of the pandemic is the outcome we all hoped would be possible. So there's a little light in your day with the COVID-19 crisis we got going on. It's a next step forward. That's all we can ask for, right? Speaking of a next step forward, there has been a new study released that also has to do with COVID-19, of course. As we know, the N95 and surgical masks are scarce, and they have been reserved for healthcare workers. People all over the globe are finding new ways to sew their own masks, to donate them, just create some kind of protection. So now there's a new study that finds the best materials for homemade face masks, and it could be kind of two fabrics combined. So the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends that everyone wears a mask in public during the COVID-19 pandemic. Like I said, so many people are creating their own masks or trying to find ways around it to make sure that they are protecting themselves. So now in this new study, they are saying that the combination of cotton with natural silk or chiffon can effectively filter out aerosol particles as long as it fits properly on your face. So it fits tightly and good. So coronavirus, as we all know, can spread through respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs, sneezes, speaks, breathes, right? That's why we're all keeping our 6 feet apart. So these droplets, there's a bunch of different sizes, and even the tiniest ones, they're called aerosols, they can slip through the openings between certain cloth fibers. So people have been kind of questioning some of the face masks that others are wearing just because there's still a chance the aerosol particles can slip through. So at the University of Chicago, they decided to study the ability of common fabrics that are alone or in combination to other fabrics just to filter out aerosols similar in size to respiratory droplets. So the researchers used an aerosol mixing chamber to produce particles, and then a fan blew the aerosol across various cloth samples at an airflow rate corresponding to a person's respiration at rest. And then the team measured the number and the size of particles in air before and after passing through the fabric. So one combination of 2 fabrics was able to filter out the most aerosol particles. So that was about 80 to 99% depending on the particle size. So this is a very close performance to the N95 mask, which is a layer of tightly woven cotton sheet combined with 2 layers of polyester spandex chiffon. So substituting the chiffon for natural silk or flannel, or simply using a cotton quilt with cotton polyester padding produced very similar results as well. So the researchers have pointed out that tightly woven fabrics such as cotton can act as a mechanical barrier to particles, whereas fabrics that hold a static charge, like certain types of chiffon and natural silk, serve as an electrostatic barrier. So they are saying there's a 1% gap reduced the filtering efficiency of all masks by half or more. So emphasizing the importance of properly fitted masks. So if you are creating your own masks, which is amazing, you're sewing them and giving them out, make sure that they are fitted properly to your face, so that they are doing the job that you made them to do. Oh, right. And my next story is about New York City, and they lit up a thank you message for healthcare workers, and it was pretty incredible. It kind of blew up on social media, of course. Leave it to social media to take things viral. So to honor some of the frontline workers of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is the world's longest elevated pedestrian bridge in New York, and it was lit up by more than 1,300 lights carefully placed by just volunteers that decided to do this, and it spelt out thank you. So the display of light spanned more than 200 feet. Which is pretty cool. So this is the New York landmark in Hudson Valley. People are just in awe of the picture. I will definitely post it up on our social media pages just so you can see the beautiful lit thank you. It is such a cool thing that they did, and it was all volunteers that just came together to make this happen. One participant said it was really fun and rewarding to be involved. Another said, I've never been so tired, doing over 18,000 steps that day and bending over bags, but I'm so happy with the results. Just like lots of places all all over the globe right now have been, putting out messages of gratitude and just thanking our frontline workers for what they have been doing during the pandemic right now. Linda Cooper of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation says when the bridge first opened in the 1890s, it was known as the Great Connector. And I think it lived up to that nickname here. All right. So that is all this great positive stories I have to share with you right now. But don't go anywhere. When we get back, I have some really cool stories about some anonymous donors, what they've been doing to help out people during the COVID-19 pandemic. It just continues to amaze me how much kindness has been spread during such a hard and stressful time for so many people. And I just love sharing these stories. So stay tuned. I will be right back with more.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So I mentioned before the break, I have some stories about some anonymous donors and what they have done to help out people during the pandemic. But before I get into those, I'm going to tell a story about Nike. Nike has donated tens of thousands of shoes that they designed exclusively for healthcare workers. So they designed a special athletic shoe for healthcare workers. So this can withstand a 12-hour shift. That's what they kind of designed this shoe for. And they donated 30,000 pairs to hospitals across the United States and 2,500 to hospitals in Europe. So the company is also sending more than 100,000 additional apparel items, so including compression socks and sportswear kits, just as a thank you to all of the frontline workers. Nike described the Air Zoom Pulse is the first shoe designed for the healthcare athlete and an everyday hero. That's what they're calling it, which is pretty cool. So they're made out of a special material that is easy to wipe down and clean. It's designed to be worn for 12-hour shifts. So that also includes 5 miles of walking with less than an hour of sitting. So really is perfect for those healthcare workers. Nike's non-profit partner, Good 360, is also distributing the shoes to workers in the U.S., veterans hospitals, as well as hard-hit health systems in Chicago, Los Angeles, Memphis, and New York City. In Europe, the shoes will go to hospitals in Barcelona, Berlin, London, Milan, Paris, and Belgium. So the company says the Nike Foundation and Nike has committed more than $25 million to COVID-19 response efforts. And then it's apparel donations valued at $5.5 million. So there also additional support has also been given to the World Health Organization and community support efforts for its employees in Oregon, Memphis, Amsterdam, Belgium, and China. So Nike has provided more than 290,000 pieces of personal protective equipment and 250,000 disposable face masks to hospitals across the United States. The New York mayor, Bill de Blasio, has actually tweeted about his appreciation. He says, "Thank you so much for supporting our frontline healthcare workers." And to sum up what all the things that Nike has been doing and has done already, they're also offering a training club premium subscription service for free during the pandemic. So you can actually go download their app to access different body weight workouts, yoga exercises, and all those kind of things to keep you healthy and fit at home during this pandemic. Now I'm going to switch to what some anonymous donors have been giving. So an anonymous donor gave a $1 million gift to a hospital so it can be divided between every single employee. So this very generous donation was given to the Dignity Health Dominican Hospital in Santa Cruz, California. The donor did want to remain anonymous, but they did include a note with their gift saying, "Thank you for standing up and staying up to care for our community. This human kindness is what makes you heroic." So this was as per the donor's wish that the donation will be distributed amongst each and every one of the hospital staffers who have worked at the facility for at least 1 year, from, security guards, lab technicians, janitors, mailroom workers, everybody. They're going to be splitting this money. So full-time employees will be receiving $800 bonus checks, and part-time employees will be receiving about $600 bonuses. So that's quite a bit of money. It helps out a lot of people. The staff at the hospital are just so excited and so appreciative of all of it. They say there are so many people who keep the hospital running. Nurses and doctors are getting the praise, but we couldn't do it without the staff who clean the floors, deliver supplies, fix machines, everything. It's a team, and I'm glad the whole team is getting a thank you. So a California landlord and his wife, they decided to double up on their stimulus checks, and they decided to give it to 13 of their tenants. So this is in Santa Rosa, California, and they wanted to remain anonymous, but he did say that after receiving their $3,400 federal stimulus check, they felt compelled to pay it forward to what they're saying their second family, which is their tenants. So he matched the check's amount for a total of $7,000, so that he could shave $500 off this month's rent for each of his tenants. Pretty cool thing to do. So one of his tenants, her name is Cynthia Whitsitt, and she's been renting from this landlord for the last 10 years. And she says that this compassionate gesture is not unusual for a man who she insists is one of the best property owners she has ever had. The donation has helped her to save about 1/3 of her rental payment. She says she is now happy to finally be able to fix her car. She says it was a great surprise, but I wasn't really that surprised because he's just that type of guy he is. The landlord says that he was also inspired to donate his stimulus check after reading news reports of other individuals and business owners doing similar good deeds across California. So he just hopes that this gesture will inspire others to do the same. There's that domino effect in its working. I love to see that. So some people can't, donate money or donate their stimulus checks to help out others. So people have been getting creative all across our world just to, entertain one another and spread kindness and joy during a pretty scary and stressful time. So what some opera singers have been doing is pretty cool. Some opera singers have been hosting a weekly concert in their driveway just to bring their neighborhood together and spread some joy and kindness. So this is a couple from South Carolina, and they just wanted to bring their musical talents to their community and share a weekly concert, of course, while respecting all social distancing guidelines, and just bring some entertainment and joy. So Leah Edwards and her husband Dimitri Pita, they are professional opera singers, and they've been setting up their little concert at the end of their driveway in Mount Pleasant, and they just perform classical and contemporary opera pieces for their neighbors. So they say that, their performance haven't just served as a source of entertainment for their neighborhood, but it's just helped the community come close together during all of the lockdowns. People are so separated right now, and so it's nice to have those things that you can stay your distance but come together and enjoy something all as one. So he says, we're practicing. They say that they can hear us anyways. So we say, why not take it to the driveway and make it a concert? It gets everyone out checking on each other and get some breath of fresh air and make music. They have been performing all the time on their driveway, just spreading joy and cheer to their neighbors. Like I said in the first part of this episode, it is just so cool to see how much kindness has been spread during such a chaotic and hard time for so many people. I just see more and more people out for walks with their families. They're spending quality time. They're donating to causes that they really care about. Frontline workers, of course, but different charities and food banks and things like that to help people all around the world. It's just so cool to see everybody kind of come together in a time when we're all so separate and have to be so far apart. I just feel like everyone is more connected than we ever have been. It's been a forced slowdown, definitely not the kind of slowdown we would have ever expected or wanted. There's been so many negative effects from the coronavirus, of course, but try to think on the positive side. And for me, that is just noticing all the kindness and all of the big gestures or small gestures, donations, just everyone coming together to make sure everyone's okay. And I just think that's super cool to see. All right, I'll stop rambling on about kindness. It's time for another bit of a break, but when we get back, you know it, I have more positive, feel-good stories to share with you.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco, ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Jo. Okay, I'm back with more feel-good, positive stories to share with you. This next one is pretty cool. Nothing to do with COVID-19, but scientists, after decades of work, they have now officially mapped the entire surface of the moon for the very first time. Pretty crazy. So if you've ever wondered what kind of rocks make up those bright and dark splotches on the moon, if you've just been curious about the moon, now scientists have just released this new map, basically, to help explain the 4.5 billion year old history of our nearest neighbor in space, which is the moon. So the entire lunar surface has been completely mapped and uniformly classified by scientists from the United States Geological Survey in collaboration with NASA and the Lunar Planetary Institute. So this map is called the Unified Geologic Map of the Moon, and it's basically the blueprint of the moon's surface geology for future human missions, and it's going to be, it will be invaluable for the international scientific community, educators, and the public at large. So this digital map, it is available online. It shows the moon's geology, and it's in incredible detail. It is so cool to look at. I have already checked it out. Definitely go search this up because it's really cool to see what they have discovered. So Jim Riley, who is the United States Geological Survey director and former NASA astronaut, he says people have always been fascinated by the moon and when we might return. So it's wonderful to see the United States Geological Survey create a resource that can help NASA with their planning for future missions. So to create this digital map, scientists used information from 6 Apollo Arrow regional maps, along with updated information from recent satellite missions to the moon, and then existing historical maps were redrawn to align the modern data sets, thus preserving the previous observations and interpretations. So along with merging new and old data, the researchers have also developed a unified description of the rock layers of the moon. So this resolved issues from previous maps where rock names, descriptions, and ages were sometimes inconsistent. So it says, this map is a result of decades-long project. It provides vital information for new scientific studies by connecting the exploration of scientific sites on the moon with the rest of the lunar surface. Go check out this map. It is crazy. There's videos on YouTube. There's also a website. You literally get to see all these different colors and layers and rocks of the moon. So my next story is about a Italian old tradition of basically charitable giving. It's kind of like a pay it forward tradition. They have now kind of modernized it to the COVID-19 response. So caffè sospeso is an Italian term which means suspended coffee. I probably didn't say that right. I apologize. But it basically, that's what someone says in a cafe when they're feeling generous and they want to pay it forward to someone that's less fortunate. So this has been a tradition all over the world, but this is kind of what Italy's idea of paying it forward. That's what they call it. So that is an old tradition, and it's been, people have been doing it for many years. But now with the COVID-19 kind of conscious culture, they're calling it, they decided to do kind of a more generous version of this tradition. It's all over Italy right now, and they're calling it suspended shopping. So as we know, COVID-19 has done more damage in Italy than almost anywhere else. And because of the extreme difficulties, people are going into shops and they're paying the grocery tabs for strangers who might be out of work. So it's an estimated 1 in every 2 Italians has been out of work. So this is since early March. So many people are beginning to wonder how they will be able to afford to feed their families. But now people are doing this suspended shopping kind of tradition, paying it forward, and they're helping out one another, just paying for strangers' groceries or helping out where they can. Now, this next story is for all of you people who have been searching for the perfect hangover cure. I know many people have their own kind of remedies for their hangovers, whether that's a greasy McDonald's burger or, some electrolytes, Gatorade, whatever you try to do to mask the painful hangover. Well, there has now been a scientifically backed hangover cure that I think we've probably all been waiting for. So it is a plant extract combination of fruits, leaves, and roots, and it could really help to relieve your hangover symptoms. This is a new study that it was just published. So the study's findings indicate that dehydration and the associated loss of electrolytes, as we know, is those charged minerals in the body that help balance water content and acid levels. That are largely responsible for all the common hangover cures. But various natural remedies have been recommended for so long. As we've said, I guess that, McDonald's burger isn't a natural remedy, but so many people have their own type of hangover cure that they like to do. But these researchers from the Institute of Molecular Physiology at Johannes Gutenberg University, they assess the potential of specific plant extracts, vitamins and minerals, and antioxidant compounds to ease a range of physical and psychological symptoms that are associated with drinking alcohol. So this is a peer-reviewed, double-blind, randomized controlled trial that was just published. So the plant extracts include a Barbados cherry, prickly pear, Kingo biloba, willow, and ginger root. The vitamins and minerals include magnesium, potassium, sodium, bicarbonate, zinc, riboflavin, thiam, and folic acid. So 214 healthy 18 to 65-year-olds were randomly split into 3 groups, and they were given a 7.5 gram flavored water-soluble supplement 45 minutes before, and immediately after they stopped drinking any of beer, white wine, or white wine spritzer. So there were 69 people in the first group were given a supplement containing the plant extracts, vitamins, and minerals, and additional antioxidant compounds. And then the second group of 76 were given a supplement minus the plant extracts, while the third group, 69 of them, were just given a glucose alone placebo. So the number and type of drinks consumed was recorded as how many times they emptied their bladder between 1,700 and 2,100 hours. So blood and urine samples and blood pressure measurements were taken before and after the start of this 4-hour period, and then participants were sent home to sober up. So 12 hours later, these samples and blood pressure measurements were taken, and participants filled in a questionnaire about the type of intensity of perceived hangover symptoms, which were actually ranked on a 0 to 10 scale. So the average amount of alcohol consumed was virtually the same in all three groups, which is about 0.62 milliliters per minute. And the analysis of all the data showed that symptom intensity varied widely among participants, but compared with the placebo, those taking the full supplement of plant extracts, minerals and vitamins, and antioxidants reported less severe symptoms. So the average headache intensity was 34% less, nausea was 42% less, and then feelings of indifference fell by an average of 27%, and restlessness of 41%. So no significant differences or reductions were reported for any other of these symptoms. So there you have it. There might be a brand new hangover cure to help you. Honestly, most people will just take whatever they can, a Gatorade and a McDonald's burger. But if there is a healthy mineral antioxidant alternative that we can take, don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. All right. So that is all the feel-good, positive stories I have to share with you today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening to GSMC, America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Alyssa Jo. I appreciate you listening today. Please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, like and follow us on social media, and leave a 5-star review. I look forward to sharing more positive stories with you next time. Stay healthy, stay positive, keep spreading kindness, and I look forward to next time. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast.